Hi, my name is Todd McAlary. I'm the instructor for APS 150, a course in ethics for first-year engineers at the University of Toronto. This is Module 2B on intellectual property. The learning objectives for this module are to understand what is intellectual property, the meaning of copyright, and the ethics of fair dealings. So let's talk first about theft. One of the basic tenets in tort law deals with the interference with possessions or property. So usually the remedy is to make the person whole. In other words, if you steal something, you give it back. If you break something, you fix it. If it can't be fixed, you replace it. In other words, the victim should be receiving something that gets them back to where they were before a theft took place. And if it can't be replaced in some way, shape, or form, then you can just simply provide compensation, fix it with dollars. For non-tangible items, like an idea, intellectual property, for example, it's a little bit harder to fix it if it's damaged. I mean, it doesn't have a body to be damaged. Engineers create ideas or processes or documents that contain ideas, and those are not something that can have a dent put in it that a body shop can pull back out again. So our product really is an idea, and ideas fall into the concept of intellectual property. Now this also refers to music, written word, books, novels, spoken word, discoveries, inventions. All of those fall into the broad category of intellectual property. But it's still property. It's still it's something that a person owns, and it can be interfered with. And if so, then discipline is needed. So a patent is something that protects intellectual property. And it's a document basically that describes what the intellectual property is, the idea, the invention. And it grants the inventor exclusive control over the use of that process or product over a certain period of time. Now, the inventor could choose to sell the patent, and this happens all the time. There are many people that have made it quite rich by basically getting a patent on an idea, not having enough money to basically commercialize the idea, but another company that does have enough money to commercialize it buys the patent from them, so that all of the effort made by the person who came up with the idea is rewarded through the purchase of the patent. The average selling price for a patent in the United States in recent years is around $1 million, so patents can be very valuable. And stealing somebody's intellectual property is also not just a small theft, it can be a very big theft. So copyright basically is another form of intellectual property protection. It's different than a patent, but a copyright basically provides the owner with the exclusive right to be paid for reproduction of their work. So a musician might have the copyright for their song. Every time their song gets played on the radio, they get paid a certain number of dollars. Anytime somebody buys one of their CDs, they get paid a certain number of dollars. And they have the exclusive right to be compensated for that. If other people basically take their music and sell it and get paid for it, they're breaking the law. They're breaking that copyright. So there is a concept of fair dealings. And so in certain circumstances, particularly where it's for the purpose of independent study, and as students, you'll be doing a lot of independent study, you can use single copies of certain documents for the purpose of study and not be in contravention of the copyright laws. This is an exclusion that's referred to as fair dealings. So for example, if you go to the library, you find an interesting article in a journal, and you want to make just one copy of that article so that you can take it home and read it again sometime later, that's not a violation of copyright. But if you make a photocopy of that article and start selling it to people and deriving an income stream from it, then that is a violation of copyright. Engineering works are usually summarized in a report. The engineer retains the copyright to the report, but the client actually paid for it. So the client is entitled to use the report. And in some cases, a client might want to have someone else be able to rely upon the report. For example, engineers sometimes do work for lawyers representing some company. And although the lawyer is the client to the engineer, the lawyer might want the company that's their client to be able to rely upon the engineer's report. Or in other cases, such as a property transaction, the engineer might work for the buyer or the seller, but maybe the other party wants to be able to rely on the report as well, as opposed to hiring another engineer to basically duplicate the same work, double the cost for no additional value. In that case, the engineer can assign a reliance letter that basically will allow the third party the access to the use of their document. So music and movies are commonly downloaded off the internet. This is probably one of the most common forms of copyright violation. If they're made available to the public, and if you're paying a fee, and if a portion of that fee goes back to the artist, then that's not, ripping off their music. But if you're just taking it and no money goes back to the artist, then it's probably a violation of copyright laws. Downloading a single copy of a song just because you like it and not paying for it is not fair dealings. That's not, exempt from copyright laws like a single copy of a journal article would be. So you should ask yourself as, engineering students now, what's in your laptop? What's on your iPhone? What's on your, digital media? Do you have everything that's been paid for? And if so, then great. If you've got stuff that you haven't paid for and has been downloaded illegally, that's not ethical, and you really should delete it. So in summary, intellectual property theft is one of the most common forms of ethical violations. Just because it's common doesn't make it right. We should respect copyrights, patents, and other forms of protection for intellectual property, not only because it's a legal requirement, but also because it's a moral requirement. And it's not okay to do it just because you think, well, everybody's doing it, I don't think I'm going to get caught, it's really wrong, but nobody's enforcing it, so I don't really care. Ethics is all about doing the right thing, and the right thing is not to violate copyright law or patent law or any other intellectual property protection. So, as an engineer, you're going to generate intellectual property throughout your career. And you have the right to be protected, but you only really deserve that right if you also respect your obligation to protect the property of others. And that's the end of part 2B.